We will start out by acknowledging that those at our Choctaw campus in Fairbanks are on the unceded customary lands of the Tanana people of the Tanana River. In Nome, we are on Inupiaq, Yupik, Siberian Yupik lands. We honor the continued fight for the rights of First Peoples and stand together in solidarity and action. At UAF, we are growing into a socially just and caring institution of higher education. This ongoing speaker series titled Shine a Light, Promoting Conversations on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion is designed to encourage understanding, build empathy, and engage us in thinking critically about our world views. The series is led by UAF's Northwest Campus, but like all great diversity efforts, there are many partnerships and collaborations. We thank UAF Department of Equity and Compliance for teaming up with the Northwest Campus to bring this series to reality. You can find our recordings of past presentations on the Northwest Campus website under the Outreach tab. This link will be added to the chat. This semester, our Shine a Light events are during the noon hour of each third Tuesday of the month. Again, thank you so much for being here for today's event, and we hope you continue to join us. I would now like to introduce and thank our speaker, Robin Renfroe, for today's presentation on the Lost Alaskans, the Morningside Hospital Project. Renfroe has spent years researching family histories for her own family and others, which led her on her personal journey to find her husband's uncle who was sent to Morningside for epilepsy. His siblings never heard from him until they received notification of his death. She is the Vice President of Human Resources for Doyen Unlimited. Renfroe leads Doyen's human resources programs and services, including employee relations, workforce planning, training and development, benefits, and information systems. She also oversees shareholder services, which include shareholder records and relations. Please use the Q&A option at the bottom of your screen to ask any questions that Robin may address at the end of her presentation. You are more than welcome to use the chat feature, but please make sure to put your questions in the Q&A feature so we don't miss them. Thank you. So at this time, I will turn it over to Robin.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very honored to be presenting the Morningside project. As Casey said, it's a project that's very near and dear to my heart. So I'll be going through a presentation and hopefully you'll have lots of questions at the end. So the Morningside Hospital was a privately owned hospital in the Portland area that opened up in the early 1900s and closed in the mid 1960s. It took in the Coe family. There was 3 generations of them during this time period that oversaw this hospital, and it's where they quoted as the criminally insane of Alaska were sent, and I'll talk a little bit about that, how that was determined to be criminally insane. Truly criminally insane, I think, is what the court orders would say. So interestingly enough, there was a saying about the Morningside Hospital. You were either inside, outside, or Morningside. And what that meant is that you were either inside Alaska, outside Alaska, on your own, or you were at the Morningside Hospital, which means that you went through a court process for this mental institution. There is also a fourth phrase that I hadn't heard before, but several people who have been volunteering on this project said there was also suicide. So somebody might have committed suicide as the result of knowing about this hospital or not wanting to go there, or truly had some other issues that were going on. Apologize, I'll turn down my phone. So this is just kind of documenting the mental health care in the territorial days of Alaska. So in the late 1800s, there was an Oregon insane asylum. Also through the early to mid 1930s and 40s, where Alaska had some very strong epidemics of TB. There were TB sanitariums both in Washington and Oregon. But it was really in the early 1900s where Dr. Henry Waldo Coe, contracted with Alaska for the insane at a hospital called Mount Tabor. And Morningside opened, I think, about 1906. So it was the Alaska Mental Health Enabling Act that passed in the US Congress, where people were basically determined to be insane and sent to this hospital. So it's interesting. So my journey on this is really about, as the introduction was given, was about my mother-in-law's family, which I'm going to tell their story about how they were impacted by this. But with the volunteers that we had, and I'm going to recognize a lot of them at the end of this presentation, we had two judges, Judge Nisha Stein-Kruger and Judge Meg Green. And Meg Green, who has since passed, was a judge presiding over the whole development of the Alaska Mental Health Trust Authority. So very familiar with this process. They were volunteers along with many others who really went into the court records to help us understand, because myself, as I tell the journey of my husband's uncle, you know, I didn't know that there was a whole court process. So this is what happened. So somebody would be identified as being truly and mentally insane. And you'll see that Jim EBANA, my husband's uncle, had epilepsy. Down syndrome was considered, you know, mentally insane. There were lots of different things, people with dementia. In our records, which that's what this volunteer group is doing, is trying to reconstruct the records of people who were sent there. The youngest was 6 months old, the oldest in their 90s. So how does somebody 6 months old be found guilty of insanity? But as it was, people were arrested by a federal marshal. They were jailed until a court date. So in the story of Jim EBANA, he lived in Anvik, and his court hearing was in Nulato. Then he was found guilty, or they were found guilty. Some were not, by a jury of 6. Mainly, they were 6 white men who were on the jury. And then, depending on the time of year, they were taken by sled or wagon to Valdez, and then sent to Oregon, to Morningside Hospital. And they had to have escorts. And when they had women, they would try to find women that could help escort them there. So who went to Morningside? As I kind of gave you a glimpse into that. It was people with mental illness, alcoholics with psychosis, seniors with dementia, and many younger people with developmental disabilities. Now, Jim EBANA had epilepsy. It wasn't a disability other as we see it now. So there were lots of different things that were looked at. If a child had club feet or any number of things, they might be sent there. Also, as Judge Nisha and Meg spent some time up in Nome, looking at the court records there, and you know, obviously there was a big gold find there, and lots of people from all over the world came to Nome, along with local Alaskans. They were interested to see that they felt like in some cases where, you know, maybe there's 2 or 3 of us that went together on a claim and it looks profitable, I might decide that my partner, I might turn him in because he drinks a lot, and he gets irate and irrational when we're trying to make decisions. So their point of view is that in some cases, it was just a way to get somebody's property or claim. So again, there's probably 15 to 20 over the last 10 to 12 years of us that have been researching this in a very organized way. And as we were doing this research, we came up kind of with our goals. So our mission is to focus on families. Like my mother-in-law, she wanted to know what happened to her brother, didn't know. Wasn't communications like we have now. There wasn't a village phone, you know, where at least you could get out. It was all letter writing. And so many people over the years of us putting this project together, you know, will contact one of our volunteers. It was like, oh my gosh, I remember my mom talking about her mom being sent there, or, you know, we never knew, and gosh, we'd like to know. And, you know, we guess that maybe they died there. We don't know. And so our mission is to focus on families, to try to help where we can by creating lists and data so that people can know where their family ended up. Some people were released and lived their lives. Some people were committed multiple times. Many of them died in Portland and were buried as paupers in about 5 to 6 cemeteries in that area. So our scope has been to focus on the people and the events of Morningside. And what we wanted is a searchable web-based database so that people could go up and look at see if their family name is in there. We'd love to see a memorial in Alaska and in Oregon to honor these. We know of almost 4,000 people, and we're missing almost 20 years of data that we haven't been able to find. So there are many people that were sent there. We also want this period to be recognized and promoted. And specifically, we've, in our last 10 years, and most recently last week, have been meeting with the Alaskan Mental Health Trust, because these were the predecessors. This is where it was because of these individuals that the state of Alaska received those, or the Mental Health Trust received the lands and the funds that help support mental health today. And we also want to catalog any relevant materials that are out there. So this is the story of James EBANA, my husband's uncle. In 1917, their mother and father were miners in the area of Flat. They had moved around just like many people do in that era. And unfortunately, she passed away, I believe, of pneumonia at the mining camp that they were at. So she had 5 children at the time. Florence, Emily was 5, Kate, which is my husband's mother, was 3, James EBANA was 2, and she had an infant. We believe, we've never heard anything about Will, so we're thinking that her youngest had passed away, maybe of similar situations. So they were moved to the Anvik mission, which was overseen by the church there. And there was also a mission in Holy Cross, which was run by the Catholics. And so the children were all sent to the mission. Their dad was still trying to, you know, work, do mining. He would come back and forth and visit the kids, but really couldn't take care of them. So they pretty much all grew up in the mission. At one point, Florence moved from Anvik over to the Holy Cross mission. And so there was a split there. We don't know what led to James being turned in. I'm pretty sure it's by the mission staff there in Anvik. He was probably having epileptic seizures. which can be very dramatic if you're not familiar with those, which causes disorientation at the time, and also could be days afterwards as your brain is trying to reorganize itself. So James had a hearing at some point, and in Nulato, which is upriver from Anvik on the Yukon River. I don't know the details of that hearing, haven't been able to find that information. And so on September 6, 1930, he became patient 1336. And you'll see later on in this presentation how they described the different people in their quarterly reports. So here he was admitted from Nulato. He's a half-breed Indian, male, single, 14 years old, schoolboy, epilepsy, grand mal type, dull and slow, probably defective, no psychotic symptoms. And he dies in 1942 from tuberculosis, which he had for 5 months, and from psychosis from epileptic deterioration for the last 11 years. In the 1990s, my mother-in-law, Kate, although she talked about James EBANA, I really began trying to search for him. And because I've done a lot of family research of people who are adopted, and just my own family research, and really couldn't find anything about this hospital or to help her find out about what happened to her brother. So here's a picture of Emily, Kate, and Florence, somewhere between the 1918 and 1920s in the Anvik Episcopal Mission. And then in the 1980s, when Florence and Kate met, interestingly enough, they had kind of a conflict in their own lives of their two religions, the Episcopal and the Catholic, and for many years, I guess, didn't talk to each other, but reconciled as they got older. So here's a document from the 1930s, just to kind of give you what some of the things that we have found. This is just kind of showing that they're billing the Secretary of Interior. In the 1930s, Alaska was not a state at that time. They were a territory. And so they would send monthly billings for the patients that they had there. And here is a little bit more detail about the patients received during that quarter, those discharged, those released under bond and contract. I'm not sure what that means. Those that have passed away, and those that had tuberculosis that were transferred to another organization. So in the early days, we didn't see these kind of details of reports. It came more in the late 20s where we found the details of the names and their status. So how did I find James EBANA's death certificate? Well, really, it was thanks to Ancestry.com and the state of Oregon, where they started uploading to Ancestry their death records. And it was through that search that I found his name and where he passed away, or the date that he passed away. Then I applied for his death certificate. And so that gave me quite a bit of information about, again, who his mom was, who we knew, and his father, where he was born or buried, which was at the Multnomah Cemetery, the funeral director, which becomes very important in our documenting and searching for all the individuals that were sent there. So it was just last week or 2 weeks ago, because of Eric, who is one of our volunteers, who lives in the Portland area and is a volunteer for the Multnomah Cemetery. It's because of his ongoing research for the last 10 years. It was the first time that I saw this little note that was put in his file, or maybe it was something that was put in their local paper. I really don't know, but didn't know that he had escaped along with another person, Orville West, who was never apprehended or found, but unfortunately James was, and was returned back to Morningside Hospital. So again, as I just previously said, it was in 2005 that I was able to get his death certificate, and we started working with the Alaska Mental Health Trust to try to reconstruct that era of patients. And that Information Insights, a local organization here, was able to launch a website so that we could start listing those people that we had found. My focus personally was on Alaska Natives, and through my work, I think I identified almost 500 Alaska Natives, although I think there were many, many more that were sent there. So in 2010, I did a site visit to Multnomah Park Cemetery. I wanted to see where he was buried, got a hold of the Multnomah Park Cemetery organization, which that's where I met Eric as a volunteer. He had never heard of Morningside Hospital, so we met there at the park. We had a plot lot designated, and went there to find him, and there was somebody else buried there. And you'll see a little bit later that in this cemetery, on the very edge, which wasn't very well maintained, we uncovered quite a few, I don't know if they were cement blocks, with some of the names that we had found that were buried there. So this is an example of the quarterly report that they would submit to the Department of Interior on their patients. And you can see 7 is the first number. I haven't found a number 1. So what we have there is that in 1904, August Hofstad was committed there. So as you look through these reports, you know, you'll see all sorts of comments. 275, Ved Oxavath, constant chronic delusional state, orderly, industrious at times. Others are quiet and industrious. Others are suicidal and enfeebled, mentally tidy, quiet. It's just interesting the words that they use. And again, we have to remember this is a whole separate era. And we often have to remind ourselves of that as we're doing these researches, because the way that they were, their descriptions of individuals were pretty interesting. Quite a few people were sent there in advanced stages of syphilis also. I also wanted to highlight another person that was sent there, and again, we didn't have HIPAA to restrict how things were communicated. So many times there were articles in newspapers telling of a person being committed as criminally or truly insane. And that was a case of Sam BONNIFIELD, who was here in Fairbanks. Sam and his brother founded the First National Bank of Fairbanks, and that shipped $3 million in gold dust before the Depression. And unfortunately, well, he was known to treat people fairly, a good person. And so when the bank fell on hard times, he had a breakdown. And in October of 1911, in the Alaska Citizen, headline was Sam was taken into custody by the marshal's office on charge of insanity and placed in a federal jail. So he was found insane by a jury of 6 men and was admitted to the Morningside Hospital on December 23rd, 1911. He stayed there till 1914. Not much is known about him afterwards, where he was at. I don't think he ended up coming back to Alaska, but he died in Seattle at the age of 77. Also, at the time when I found James EBANA, I had a person that I knew that him and his wife had been looking for somebody that was buried in the Portland area. Whenever they went down there, they would randomly look up a new cemetery and try to find his father. I told him about applying for the death certificate, and we found out that he had been sent to Morningside. This man's was a young man when his dad was sent there. His view of it was, his understanding from his mom is that his dad had been out cutting wood in the winter, had a bad accident where he cut his leg severely, possibly had gangrene, probably became delusional, was found criminally, truly insane, sent outside where he died. And fortunately, because of the efforts of all the volunteers, we were able to find which cemetery he was located in, and I assisted him with returning his father back to his home village. So here's some pictures that we found in the archives. This is the children's ward. You can see the children's heads are all shaved, which I think is interesting. You know, we don't know the backstory of these photos. Here, I believe, is the men's dorms. You can see the beds are back to back, really no privacy. Again, this is out in front of one of the houses. You can see a child in a wagon over there to my right. Interestingly enough, again, we just did a presentation in Juneau to the Sea Alaska Foundation about this project that was broadcast, I believe, as a podcast through their foundation. And Eric and Nisha were the presenters there. Again, I continue to learn new things. So it was found that they had huge gardens there, and that they sold that produce in the local community, and yet those residents ate poorly. So here they're out caring for these huge gardens, and yet their meals were fairly meager. Again, just some more photos in different time frames. So what's next? We continue to research. In the last 10 years, we had people in Maryland researching the National Archives. And when the National Archives was here in Alaska, in Anchorage, I spent quite a bit of time there along with others. We were in the state archives in both Oregon and Alaska. So in Salem, Oregon, Eric, myself, and my sister who lived down there, but Eric's continued that. He will go down to the archives and pull death certificates. Nisha and the late Meg would pull state and district court records, so we could kind of understand that. We worked on developing a database, trying to find the burial sites, and eventually we'd like to be able to do some sort of documentary on this. So here are, when I went to Multnomah Cemetery, and again, there's 5 or 6 cemeteries where the paupers, as they were referred to, were buried. This is in the back of the Multnomah Cemetery, where Eric and I uncovered these different names. And then when we went back and looked in our research of the records, these were the sources of where we found their names at Morningside Hospital. You saw the small version of this. I just pulled out some of, might have been hard to read, but the descriptions of how they describe these individuals throughout their stay. Those descriptions never changed, whether they were there for 40 years or 2 years. The descriptions were the same. This is my last slide, and this by no means there are many more volunteers, but this is how we kind of grouped us. So Nisha and Meg were looking at court records. Deb was looking in the Alaska Archives in Juneau. Mary Lou was in DC looking at the National Archives. Myself, Eric, and Sally were looking at death records. Ellen with Information Insights was creating a blog. We were looking for funding to help support this, not for any of us and our efforts, but just to have a place for this information. That was Karen, Vivian, and Jeff. And then public relations was Sally and Karen. So where are we at now? We kind of all got distracted. None of us have spent a whole lot of time on this in the last probably 4 years, right before the pandemic. And Nisha, who is right here, she is one of our judges. She kind of resurrected us, and we're putting a new fire underneath us to get with the Alaska Mental Health Trust so that they will hopefully own this data. We have a website that will expire in next year in 2023. We want the Alaska Mental Health Trust to own this data, have a website so families can look for their family members, post stories about their family, to memorialize them if they so choose, and for many just to know where their loved one is buried if they died in the Oregon area. So, you know, I guess my final pitch to any of you are, if you have an interest in this, we're always looking for volunteers to help us search for records. Some of it can be online. If you happen to go to Juneau, I would highly recommend going to the archives. It's a brand new building. We were there just last week pulling records. You know, we could help guide you on that process. We have a new partner of a professor in Eugene, Oregon, who wants to help work with us. She met with us in Juneau. So looking for volunteers to help us update spreadsheets that we have as we find new information. And then the other thing is we move forward with the Alaska Mental Health Trust to persuade them to take this project as their own, which is where it needs to be. If we get to that point where we have to put more pressure on them, public pressure, if that's something that you'd be interested in. We're not there yet. We're hoping that they will just own it, but if so, then, you know, we might need your support. So thank you. And I don't know if there's any questions out there.
Yeah, thank you so much, Robin, for being here today. So we are going to ask a couple of questions that came in during the presentation. And if anyone else has any questions, please use the Q&A function and we'll get to them. The first one is, were all Alaskans sent to Morningside or only Alaska Native people?
All Alaskans were. It's not just Alaska Native people. Like I said, we've got about 4,500 that we know, and we're still missing that 20-year period between the mid-40s and the mid-60s when it closed. again, my focus has been just on documenting the Alaska Natives in those early days. So there are people, as you saw on that quarterly report, many were immigrants or people all over the world that came to Alaska during the heyday of mining. So were there many people, and some were deported as a result of their hearing back to their home country.
Do you have like a percentage of Alaska Native people based on the records you were able to find?
I think it's too hard to know at this point, just because we don't have a full record, and it's only as their descriptions, as you saw Jane EBANA, a half-breed, so you don't always really know. So part of my list are my best guess from knowing names, kind of, I'm just going to say themed names from different areas around the state. It's like, oh, okay, well, they must be Alaska Native and they were from this community. So I'm marking them as Alaska Native. And it's only until we find the death records that we can finally verify, because many times it'll indicate that they're there. So yeah, too difficult to say at this point.
That makes sense. Another question. So if someone is interested in getting involved, how do they do that? And a follow-up. Oh, no, go ahead.
They can email me at robin@doyan.com and just put in their Morningside interests. So I'll probably just put them in a folder. And as we meet, we're all volunteers at this point. I have more than a full-time job. I also have aging parents that I take care of. So I have a lot of things on my list. So getting more people to help us document and get this list together in a more comprehensive way that we could hopefully transfer over to the Alaska Mental Health Trust Authority. That's kind of been our focus. We just, there was 5 of us in Juneau this last week, like I said, making presentations to the Sea Alaska Foundation, and that was broadcast also. We went to the state archives. We found additional names while we were just sitting there going through records, and we found out that there was another facility open to take babies that were no larger than what a crib could hold, so kind of depend on their age and their size, and that Morningside patients were sent there to help take care of those babies that were intended. So we're uncovering new things all the time.
Goodness. Another question, can you revisit the timeline? Was the Alaska Mental Health Trust Authority a part of sending the criminally insane to Oregon?
No, they were not. It was based on, there started to become, there's a lot more to this story, and maybe what I could do is get the link from Sea Alaska for the presentation that Meg and Eric just gave. Meg is a lot more knowledgeable on kind of the legal side of this, but no, these were in territorial days mostly. And then there started to become investigations of complaints. And so they were investigating Morningside, and it was a result of those investigations that the state of Alaska decided that they needed to abolish this process and figure out how Alaskans were going to take care of Alaskans. And that's my understanding. I'm no expert on it, of how the Alaska Mental Health Trust was created.
Another question regarding researching ancestry, where to begin and what advice do you have? Like, where do you start? It can be kind of intimidating.
On Morningside specifically? Is that their question, or just in?
Kind of in general, but focusing on Morningside. Yeah.
Yeah, that's no problem. So it's researching on Morningside. I mean, on a patient in Morningside, you can go to census records and look for the census records of Multnomah. And you'll see Morningside Hospital there. And that's where we actually started, by getting patients every 10 years, their names are listed there. So that's a good way to kind of get a start to look at names. We have a database that is no longer up on our morningside.com website that was taken down a few years ago, which we didn't even realize. That's why Nisha kind of came back into this. It was like, wait a minute, where's all that data that we had put up there, and that this website is going to expire in 2023. Again, we were all volunteers just trying to get something out there. So to research, it really starts with knowing a name. Again, like James EBANA, you know, that's where I started. So if you know somebody was sent there, if you know that somebody was sent there, you can start by researching them. And it's interesting. It's just interesting to start following a trail. So it's not a real clear path. If you're just doing general research on ancestry for something else, there's YouTubes that kind of tell you, you start out specific, and then if you're not finding somebody, you start eliminating information. And the more information you have on somebody that you're researching, like who their siblings are, who their parents were, their grandparents, you know, ranges of when they might be born, it can be challenging. And also another resource is Family Search, which is a free website, and sometimes they have I found information there that I couldn't find on Ancestry.
Next question, where would the 40s through the 60s missing data be? Was the data destroyed? Did you find any census data? Where would you start to looking to find the data?
Yeah, so the 1950s census was just released here in the last year and a half. So we've been looking there. Also, again, so here a couple of months ago, again, this is Nisha. She's a bulldog. She can get right in there. She's retired. I'm not saying she has more time than me, because she does a lot of different things to volunteer and help do a lot of different projects. But she found a podcast by I'm forgetting her university in Eugene, that she had some students doing research on the Morningside Hospital. So we believe that she's got some access to some records that we don't. And so she came up to Juneau to meet with us. And we're planning regular every other month meetings. We're going to be working with her. Some of the other ideas, these are all just noodles on the wall at this point. We have a lot of planning yet to do, is seeing if organizations could support interns to, maybe if you've got a student that's down in Oregon area who wants to work on this project and get paid by somebody in Alaska to help research. We've got a lot of ideas. We've got to start blending this together and figuring out what works and what might not work. But yeah, so we don't have a plan. We have some ideas, and we're meeting at the end of this month. We're meeting with the Alaska Mental Health Trust in November to talk more about their role in taking this over. So we're just kind of resurrecting ourselves.
Have you found any connections between Morningside and the Alaska Native boarding schools?
I have not personally, no.
Okay.
Haven't focused on that.
Do you have any findings specific to the Bering Strait region?
Oh yeah, there's people from all over the state of Alaska, definitely. There are people that were sent there. And if you've got a name, I could look at it to see if we see that name. And again, Casey, I can send to you. I don't have access to it right now, but Eric, through researching, Eric is the volunteer at the Multnomah Park Cemetery. If you're not familiar, there's a program called Find a Grave, and he has posted a little over 1,000 names of people where he's actually found their death certificates and posted them there. But we do have a larger database that's no longer up. So if there's a name you want one of us to look at, then we could try to see if we see a name there.
Awesome.
So there's two things that I'm going to owe you if that's what you want, and that's the link to the See Alaska podcast that we just did last week, where to find that, and then also the Find a Grave database related to Morningside.
Excellent. And we will put those links on the Northwest Campus page along with the recording of this once it's up. And then one final question, unless someone else has another one. During this time period, was this the only like mental institution that folks were getting sent to from Alaska, or were there other similar,
I think there were quite a few in the Oregon area from what I can tell. Some of them, like I said, were TB sanitariums, they called them, because we had in the 20s and 30s, I think is the time frame that I remember, there were huge epidemics that occurred. Fortunately for my husband's community of Anvik, they had a great Episcopal priest who kept his own records of, who passed away and how families would blend together because one lost a wife, one lost a husband, and kind of became a couple jointly raising their families. But yeah, there's people were sent out quite a bit in the Oregon area. I've had requests from people that would have a name of another place, a hospital or sanitarium, but we haven't researched that piece of it. We've focused mainly on Morningside because that's where there are court records where people were found truly insane.
Thanks. And it looks like another question came in. Can you tell me the podcast name again? I'm not clear on what you're saying.
Oh, we were invited, Nisha and Eric, Judge Nisha Stein-Kruger and Eric, who's the volunteer down in Oregon, to See Alaska Heritage Foundation and to do a presentation. I think it's a podcast. I'll get the link and send it to Casey. Nisha just has that legal background that really knows how that piece works. And Eric has been the feet on the ground, going to the 5 different cemeteries and trying to help document. So I'll send that to Casey and you'll be able to hopefully find it.
Great. Well, if there are no more questions, is there anything else that you wanted to share with us, Robin, before we close things out?
Nope, just appreciate the opportunity to let more people know about this project. Again, I'm going to say there's probably 5,000 to 6,000 people that were sent there. No idea, again, the totality of Alaska Natives. But the more people we have researching, the more data we'll be able to find and clarify. Like I said, just in the short time that I was in the archives in Juneau, and I got distracted by other things, I found 6 people in council that were sent there that are not on our list. So, there's lots more names out there.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Robin. Please keep an eye out for upcoming Shine a Light presentations at nwc.uaf.edu or on facebook.com/uaf.nwc. If you would like to share the recording or give feedback, you can do so by visiting the Outreach tab at nwc.uaf.edu. We will now be closing out this webinar. Have an excellent day.
Thank you, Robin.
Yep, you're welcome.
Have a good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you.